What's coming up in June 2025 for Virgo placements? All right, Virgo, you have victim mentality in reverse. You see all these reversals. Wow. And this whole deck isn't reversed, by the way. So that's really interesting. Wow. Victim mentality in reverse. So for you, Virgo, I feel like you've finally broken free of your own limiting mindset or hypercritical mindset, okay? Because you know, guys, I love you guys, right? I have Virgo in my chart as well, so I get it. We have a tendency to be our own worst enemy when it comes to the inner critic, right? It can do so much carnage left unchecked. And so I feel like for a lot of you guys, what you're realizing is that it's just not necessary, right? Like, yes, situations can suck sometimes. People can even suck sometimes, right? Even yourself, the way you show up sometimes can suck. But you know what? That doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. That doesn't mean you're a failure. That doesn't mean, you know, those people are necessarily evil, depending on the circumstance, of course. Sometimes, you know, people just make wrong choices, wrong decisions. Sometimes we make the wrong decisions ourselves by enabling things we know we shouldn't, or remaining in situations we shouldn't, or not speaking up when we're supposed to, right? So instead of beating yourself down, you know, being so hard on yourself about all the things you feel like you did wrong, or you enabled, or you allowed, you're just simply saying, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. So here I go, right? So you pivoted. Instead of like cracking down on yourself, right, and making yourself feel worse, you stopped, right? And instead you chose to what? Pivot, which has been a big theme recently about pivoting. So that's what you guys have been doing, okay? So you're like, this is not going to be my narrative anymore. This isn't going to be my life anymore. This isn't my story. I'm going to change it. And so you did, okay? So this could be something you go on to do in the month of June, or this is something that you're already doing, right? But either way, you're choosing to free yourself. You're choosing to release yourself from anything that puts you in that energy, right? Of feeling low, of feeling lack, of feeling bad in some shape or form. And where you feel like it's your fault in some capacity because you're allowing it, or because you're not changing it, right? So that's what I feel like you're doing, which is amazing. So tell me more about this for Virgo, please. Exactly, Five of Swords in reverse. You haven't failed. You're not defeated. You're not lost, okay? You've just come to a certain realization of what needs to change, right? The thought process has changed significantly. The belief has changed. The way you view it has changed. So you haven't failed because you've made a change, right? Five of Swords in reverse. You have not failed. This situation didn't get the better of you. It didn't defeat you. It didn't beat you, okay? You're overcoming this because you're choosing differently and you're moving differently as a result. So how have you failed? You haven't. How has it defeated you? It hasn't. Hence Five of Swords in reverse. Amazing. Tell me more for Virgo. Look, your energy, Queen of Pentacles, right? Queen of Pentacles in the upright. You're still standing firm. You're still standing strong. Still grounded, okay? Still blessed, abundant, hardworking, focused, right? You're still you, Virgo, okay? You're still you. How has this situation defeated you? It hasn't. You're still you. You're still doing what you do best. All you've done is stop turning inward and becoming your own worst enemy. You've recognized the tendency to do that, right? To be your own worst critic. And instead you pivoted. You made a change, right? So that's what you did. And look at you. Instead of you feeling like you've been defeated or lost, or feeling like you're losing something, you're not. You're still solid. If anything, you're more solid now. So what have you lost? How are you defeated? You're not. Okay, so if this is something you're yet to do, I'm telling you, once you have that shift in perspective, once you make a different choice, you're going to feel differently about it. And not only that, you're going to see that actually you are doing better than you thought. Okay, you're doing a lot better than you thought. Exactly, Strength card in reverse. I get it. Sometimes, you know, that inner critic, that voice that speaks on our fears, our doubts, that feeds the negativity, right, can do a lot of carnage. I get it, and it does. There are times in our life where we feel like, you know, it is hard to get back on the horse, right? It's difficult to even have the will or the motivation to even try. When you feel like everything's sort of piled on top of you, or when you feel like even your own mind is turning against you in some shape or form, right? But I'm telling you, this energy is very temporary, very temporary. But it's also giving you an opportunity to look at it, right? Observe it, not from a place of judgment, because that's the issue, right? Being in the energy of judgment, but observing it from a place of compassion and a willingness to understand, because it's through understanding that you change it. And wanting to observe it, wanting to understand it, see the patterns, right? That's how you change it, not by criticizing even the fact that you're being so critical on yourself, you know? Yeah, King of Cups in reverse. So, yeah, this is the thing. Your energy is actually very solid, okay? And you may find that as you kind of navigate this and really sort of underpin the core of what has been feeding these negative thoughts or these feelings or these beliefs, okay? The more you're going to see that actually, you know, perhaps it's rooted in something that you're just still needing to release, work through, understand, right? Or maybe it's not your voice at all. Maybe that voice that's been wearing you down actually belonged to another. It was never yours in the first place, but you took it on as if it was your own. Because it's easier to have it come from within than to feel like this is something that's constantly being bombarded, that you're constantly being bombarded with externally, right? It's almost, again, a mechanism, a protective, defensive mechanism. So definitely a time for shadow work for some of you, okay? Some of you guys have already been doing this, but for some of you, yeah, I feel like June is definitely going to be a month of a lot of introspection and shadow work, especially when it comes to where this sort of really intense criticism actually stems from. Because for some of you, this was something that was projected at you very early on in life, right? And you harbored it and incorporated it into your shadow. And over time, as a means of protecting yourself from this energy coming at you externally, you actually absorbed it as part of your own shadow, and that person's voice started to be replaced with your own. I didn't expect it to get this deep, but that's what's coming through, okay? So you may realize that actually when you keep peeling back the layers and you keep working, digging, going down the rabbit hole, getting to the core of where this all stems from, you realize it was never your voice, it was actually your father's. Right? Your fathers, your brothers, your grandfathers, right? It doesn't have to be a masculine, it's just because it's King of Cups, right? But a masculine energy possibly, right? But someone who was just in an authority, position of authority, like a guardian or an older relative. Yeah. So, but that's, again, how you restore balance, okay? You see how there's such strong energy of balance coming through? You're going to realize that part of that voice, your inner critic, right? That shadow aspect that's coming through isn't actually you, but you've absorbed it as part of your own identity in some shape or form, as a part of yourself, when actually it doesn't belong to you at all. So that gives you an opportunity to process that and to release that, okay? to break those bonds and heal that wound.